This film is about the evolution from the golden age of children's literature to the American imagination in children's literature illustration. We begin with the history of the English Golden Age. As early as 1823, George Cruikshank's illustrations of popular German stories, also known as Grimm's fairy tales, marked the first purely entertaining illustrated work for children in Great Britain. The Golden Age of children's literature illustration, 1860 to 1930, generally refers to the period when color printing became available for use by talented and prolific illustrators. Three British illustrators who worked in color dominated the period and enjoyed commercial success were Walter Crane, Kate Greenaway, and William Randolph Caldecott. Walter Crane's inspiration is found in Japanese woodcut images, such as those found in his illustrations in this children's toys book, The Alphabet of Old Friends. Kate Greenaway drew stories set in an iconic English countryside, such as Susan Blue in Marigold Garden. And William Randolph Caldecott preferred less detail to say more in his drawings, such as those found in Daddy Darwin's Dovecot by Juliana Horatio Ewing. In the United States, the Gilded Age was a time of corruption, economic expansion, and infrastructure growth in the country. Infrastructure grew for the children's book industry at this time in a way that continues to support the industry to this day. A strong magazine publishing industry in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, such as the St. Nicholas magazine, published the authors and illustrators who would later be published in books. One such author was Frances Hodgson Burnett, who wrote The Secret Garden. From 1900 through the 1920s, the children's book publishing industry and market grew. Leaders in the industry were women, such as Eleanor H. Porter, whose most famous novel was Pollyanna. And libraries opened children's reading rooms. Frederick G. Melcher, a Publishers Weekly, established the Newbery Award in 1922 and would later establish the Caldecott Medal in 1937. Melcher also helped found National Children's Book Week. Bertha Mahoney ran the Bookshop for Boys and Girls in Boston and established the Horn Book magazine, a catalog and reviewing source meant to blow the horn for children's books. Together, these events marked the commercial development of the U.S. children's book industry and market. The best treatment of the topic of the industry's growth is Leonard S. Marcus's book entitled Minders of Make-Believe, Idealists, Entrepreneurs, and the Shaping of America's Children's Literature. This set the stage for the country to receive books and illustrations. Illustrators' styles include many characteristics. Their illustrations might show that they tend to be nostalgic or progressive, serious, or humorous. An illustrator may emphasize action and story, decor and setting, and character development. Illustrators may tend to sentimentality and emotion, or they may be devoted to anti-emotion and irony. There are many interpretations of many of the styles of many illustrators. Illustrator styles come from with whom they studied, the setting in which they began their drawing career, whether through formal art training, comics drawing, or news publications. All of these elements influence illustrators. The American imagination is a part of what illustrators express in children's picture books. That we can see American art, attitudes, and the American spirit in picture books is the subject of the 1996 book Myth, Magic, and Mystery: 100 Years of American Children's Book Illustration. The book is an introductory survey of American children's book illustration. The authors use art historical and sociological analysis to demonstrate where and how artistic and social pulse can be felt through children's book illustration. For example, in 1940, the Caldecott Medal went to Abraham Lincoln by Ingrid and Edgar Deoulaire, and the Newbery Medal went to the biography Daniel Boone by James Daugherty. The authors suggest that this meant something about current paradigm of social thinking. Here, showing through in these two picture books, is the theme of American justice and right, embraced in the U.S. in 1940. In her 1976 book, Fantasy: The Golden Age of Fantastic Illustration, Bridget Pepin confirms that illustrations indicate the aspirations and prejudices of the age that produced them. As with any industry, there is also commercial motive. Illustrators tap into social and artistic trends to sell more books or more drawings. Artists like Crockett Johnson, author of Harold and the Purple Crayon, and Hardy Grammatke, the author of Little Toot, and Kay Nielsen all drew for Disney Studios during their careers, and this experience is part of who they became as artists. In addition to drawings that reflect the sociological, artistic, or commercial demands of any given period, the creation of fantastic illustration involves what Pepin states as deeply seated and sometimes unacknowledged feelings of fear, ecstasy, desire as recognizable images. The language is one of dreams and visions inspired by but separate from everyday existence. Whatever the inspiration, it is the business of the illustrator to contribute to conceiving a fictional or dream world for readers. Kate Greenaway drew and wrote a dream world based in the English countryside. And Walter Crane drew a dream world using Japanese art techniques. That is their style. Nearly a contemporary of Cruikshank, in the United States in the 1840s and 1850s, one of the earliest American illustrators to express an American image was Felix Octavius Carr Darley. He made illustrations of Rip Van Winkle and illustrations of the Legend of Sleepy Hollow. He was the first American to focus his talents on the illustration of American literature. He illustrated many books about frontier life, interpreting the stories into frontier images for an urban audience to experience. Examples of these include his illustrations for The Big Bear of Arkansas and Other Tales, edited by William T. Porter, and for The Mysteries of the Backwoods by Thomas Banks Thorpe. Darley illustrated for American-born authors Washington Irving, James Fenimore Cooper, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, and he was Edgar Allan Poe's first illustrator. He made pictures of American heroes and American nursery images like Santa Claus, Yankee Doodle, Cinderella, Tom Thumb, Robin Hood, and Beauty and the Beast. He was influenced by Walter Cruikshank. William Wallace Denslow, Jr., or W. W. Denslow, made theater posters. His later illustrations show the decorative, humorous, and shadowy qualities of the poster form. Influenced by Crane and Caldecott, he was the first American illustrator to design picture books for children as artistic units with covers, end papers, illustrations, typefaces, and layouts, contributing to an organized and decorative effect. He is the illustrator for L. Frank Baum's The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. His depictions are flat and decorative and not realistic. Denslow contributed to the development of Baum's characters, and the final product integrated text and illustration as no earlier American children's book had done. On his own, he created Denslow's Mother Goose and Denslow's Night Before Christmas. He used dark humor sometimes, writing his own name on gravestones in his illustrations. Arthur Burdett Frost, known as A.B. Frost, studied under Cruikshank in London and with Lewis Carroll. He illustrated Carroll's Rhyme and Reason and published a collection of comic illustrations entitled Stuff and Nonsense that had a comic strip feel. He loved the southern United States and did regional drawings of the people and the landscape, eventually illustrating Joel Chandler Harris's Uncle Remus and his friends in 1892. He became known for depiction of rural and black America. He illustrated Mark Twain's Tom Sawyer Abroad and Tom Sawyer Detective and other stories. He was known for his Americana drawings. And he also provided illustration for Lewis Carroll's Tangled Tale and Phantasmagoria and other poems, and for Sylvie and Bruno. Howard Pyle wanted to entertain and inspire with his illustrations, and got his start in American children's periodicals. He made a color picture book of Yankee Doodle. He also illustrated The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood, showing influence from the English arts and crafts movement. He painted scenes of American history, for example scenes of women voting in New Jersey and William Penn. After the death of his young son, Pyle turned to the Swedenborgian faith. His illustrations included mysticism and impressionism, as in the work Twilight Land, a collection of folk tales. Pyle incorporated symbolism into his work, drawing angels, the Grim Reaper, and a brooding man holding an hourglass, all to symbolize the approach of death. This is a common theme for Gorey, too. Pyle went on to teach such artists and illustrators as Jesse Wilcox Smith, Maxwell Parrish, and N.C. Wyeth. Edward Gorey was a devoted scholar of these topics. His own work parodies and refers to alphabet books and refers Lewis Carroll's work Phantasmagoria. His characters are images drawn of the audiences of the books in the Golden Age. An age known for color illustration, he draws them in black and white for the most part and surrounded by death. Edward Gorey is situated within Victoriana. His books are about children or mock children's books, or both. The Hapless Child is the Victorian orphan's ordeal carried to its logical end. An angelic girl is orphaned and finally hit by a truck by her own father she thought was dead. Children's illustration history and the depiction of children and Victorian themes of death and symbolism contextualize Gorey's own body of work of illustration. For more information about the history of children's literature and the Gorey collection, please contact the San Diego State University Love Library.